Good morning. As you can see from the beautiful background, I'm not in Florida. I'm actually in New Jersey for a wedding, the wedding of my nephew. And a wedding, of course, is the most joyous occasion in anyone's life. And this week's Torah portion, we find that chapter 24 of Bereshit, of Genesis, describes the first Jewish wedding, the first Jewish marriage between Isaac, the son of Abraham, and Sarah, to Rebekah. And a fascinating fact is that this chapter 24 of Genesis is the longest chapter in the entire Torah, which means the Torah is emphasizing that marriage is so fundamental for the continuity of the Jewish people. When Jewish couples get married and establish Jewish homes, that is what perpetuates Jewish life. And therefore the largest Torah portion, section, chapter 24 of Genesis, is devoted to marriage and the lessons about marriage. Someone sent me an email that Joe Biden has 3 children, and every one of his 3 children married Jews. His daughter Ashley married a Jewish doctor. What else? And both of his sons, Bo and Hunter, are married, or Bo was married to a Jew, which means that his grandchildren from his 2 sons, from Bo and Hunter, are all halachically Jews. So if you run into them, invite them to shul, invite them to your home for Shabbos, because Joe Biden's grandchildren from his 2 sons are Jewish. Now, in this week's parsha, we learn about the first marriage. And the Torah tells us that Abraham had a son, Isaac, who was 40 years old and still single. And like a good Jewish father, he was concerned. And so while Abraham dies at the end of this week's parsha, before he dies, he sends his servant Eliezer on a mission to the city of Haran to go find a girl, appropriate girl, to marry his son Isaac. And the fascinating story is how Eliezer arrives at the well with his 10 camels, and he is looking for a girl. And he says to God, the girl who I approach and ask for some water from her jug, and she displays such extreme kindness that she says, not only will I get water for you, but I'll get water for all of your camels. And considering that Eliezer came with 10 camels, and camels drink a lot of water, this is the girl that is suitable to marry the son of my master Abraham, Isaac. And indeed, Rebekah comes down with the jug on her shoulder, fetches water. Eliezer says to her, can I get some of your water? And she offers generously to draw water, not only for Eliezer, the stranger who came to town, but also for his camels. And at that point, Eliezer knows that his prayer was answered, offers her to come and marry Isaac, and as they say, the rest is history. But what is the Torah teaching us? The obvious lesson is that a leiv tov, a good heart, but not just ordinary kindness, extreme kindness, was the trait that Eliezer needed for Isaac. Why? Because Isaac grew up in the home of Abraham and Sarah, where he constantly saw chesed, kindness. And therefore, in order for someone to marry Isaac, she had to possess the qualities of his parents, which is kindness. And from this we learn that the foundation of a marriage, a good, successful marriage, is kindness. Not just kindness, but kindness in the extreme. And going above and beyond, not just responding to what is requested, but being intuitive and understanding what else the person needs and giving them what they desire and what they lack, even if they don't request it. And this is an inspiration for all of us, not just that we should be involved in trying to find suitable matches for our children, especially today with the intermarriage rates being as high as they are. We have to make an extra effort to make sure that our sons and daughters marry within the Jewish faith so they can perpetuate the Jewish tradition and heritage, but to look for spouses for our children who display this characteristic of chesed, of kindness, because that is the foundation of a successful marriage. A beautiful story that happened in Israel a number of years ago. There was a young man who kept on going on dates, but after the first date he was usually rejected, and he was very despondent, and he knew why he was being rejected, and that was because unfortunately he had a scar that ran across his face. And one day he was talking to his rabbi, and his rabbi said to him, next time you go on a date, don't ignore the scar on your face. Tell the girl why you have the scar on your face. And that's what he did. The next time he went out with a girl, he said, you must be wondering about the scar on my face. I just want to tell you how I got it. And he began to tell the young lady how he was once walking through the streets of Jerusalem in the Shuk, and all of a sudden an Arab terrorist was running after a young girl with a knife. This was during the years, a number of years ago, there were a lot of stabbings in Israel. He said, I ran after the Arab terrorist and I tackled him to the ground. And the girl ran away. And as I was wrestling with him, he tried to cut me or stab me, and he succeeded in slashing my face. And finally the police came and arrested him, but I've remained with this permanent scar across the face. The girl began to shake and began to get very, very anxious. And she looked at him and said, can you tell me when this happened? He said, of course I could tell you. I remember it. It's remained as a permanent scar on my face. And he proceeded to tell her the exact date and time and location where this incident occurred. And the girl began to cry. And he said to her, what's the matter? Is everything okay? And she said, you know, that girl that was being chased by the Arab terrorist, that was me. And I ran away. And I read later that the terrorist was caught and arrested, but I never knew who was it that saved my life by running after the terrorist and tackling him to the ground. And finally I get to meet you and thank you in person for saving my life. Well, I don't have to tell you what happened. They continued to date, fall in love, and get married, and today they're happily married with a family. But the lesson is so powerful. Sometimes you look at someone and you see a scar, and then you realize the scar is not a scar, it's a beauty mark, because that what you perceived as a scar is actually a sign of their love, their kindness, and their devotion. When we see inner goodness in a person, that trumps any external appearance. We have to see the inner goodness and kindness of one another. We have to display that. And that is what is the foundation for a lasting and true happy marriage. Have a wonderful day.